And then from there, you will have to go to different applications. The second tab, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then there, select the application that you want to share. For example, PowerPoint. Yes, we see your slides. Yes, we can
Okay.
see you very well.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And don't. So when you share a screen, you need to remember to maximize the window that you want to share. If it's minimized, it will not be shown.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I will now give the floor to Sonia from UNESC.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Hello, yes, I can hear you, Sonia. Can you
Okay,
hear
that's great.
us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
And
perfect.
let me see. Can you see me also? No.
No, not yet,
No.
not yet.
Yeah, the camera again. I think the same thing like last week. It doesn't work
Yeah.
somehow. Anyway, it's a pity, but it's not the end of the world, I suppose.
Yeah, but you are using Chrome, correct, right?
Yes, yeah, yes.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, I will see in my settings, but
Okay. I mean, we
otherwise,
tried everything last week.
yeah.
Okay.
Let me just see one more time, but media settings, camera.
So,
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Anyway, but the sound connection is fine, is it?
sorry, can you repeat
The
that, please?
sound connection at least
Yeah, the
is good
sound
enough.
is very good. Sound
So
is
it's very good,
excellent.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you cannot show like a photo of me while I'm speaking, probably, can you?
No,
No,
not
no,
at
okay.
all. So,
Okay,
maybe
don't worry then.
okay, maybe later can you try to refresh your window? That sometimes helps. Just refresh your window and then
Right now, or
yeah,
or
right now.
let
Yes.
now?
Okay, Francois, now I will accept you to the floor. Good morning. So please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera.
Good morning. Just to.
Good morning.
It's working?
Yes, it's working. I see you and I hear you very well.
So it's perfect. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Josette Tomek, now you have the floor. Okay, please don't forget to unmute yourself
Good.
and turn
Yeah.
on your camera. Hi.
Hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, you see me, you hear me.
Yes, I see you and I hear you.
Okay.
You're wearing a headset.
See you later. Bye.
See you later. Thank you. So now I will accept Dr. Robert Dewar from GCSP. You have the floor now. Please don't forget to unmute your microphone and turn on the camera.
Can you hear me?
Sorry, I can hear you faintly. Could you repeat?
Can you hear me at all? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you, but I don't see you yet.
Yes, I'm limiting bandwidth. I'm not going to use the video.
Okay.
But just want to make sure that the microphone is working.
Okay, microphone is working. Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the meeting. My name is So from WMO Conference Services. So before we begin, I would like to brief you on the functionalities of the platform. So first of all, please make sure that you are connected using Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox, and please use a headset if possible. So in order to take the floor, you will need to allow Kuro to use your microphone and camera. This can be done by clicking the pad-like icon that is right next to the address bar. And there you will need to allow your browser to use your camera and microphone. So after making any change, please don't forget to refresh your browser. And so in order to speak, you need to request the floor by clicking on Request to Speak button that is on the right bottom of your screen. And should you experience any problems with your sound and microphone, please try clicking on cogwheel icon at the bottom of your screen. And then click Media Settings and make sure that the correct speakers and microphones are selected. So during this meeting, there will be English, French, and French Sign Language interpretation. And you can choose the language of your choice from the language selector from the bottom left of your screen. You can also use messaging function by going to messaging icon on your right, top right. So there are 3 tabs. The first one, participants. You can send a message to everyone who is connected, and you can ask questions related to the meeting. And the operator tab, you can write any technical issues that you're experiencing. And then the last one, private, is where you can see the list of participants who are connected, and you can send a private message to each one of them by clicking on their names. And when there is a presentation being shared at the moment, you will see the presentation by default, but you can switch back to the live video view by clicking on live video that is on your top left. And in order to share your screen, you would need to go to Share Screen button on the top right. And there you will see different applications. So go to the second tab where you can choose different applications. And you need to select the application window that you want to share, and make sure that the window is maximized. So that's it from us, and have a nice meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Also, welcome from my side. My name is Johannes Kuhlmann. I have disguised in my bank robber outfit today for this event on security and water infrastructure. I hope you can hear me well. I would like to welcome you in this meeting, and I would like to first give the floor to our Secretary General, whom we have the honor to have with us today in this meeting. So, Petri Talas, please open the meeting and give us some views that you might have on the topic.
Thank you, Johannes, and good morning to everybody. And it's a pleasure to address you. And of course, we are living these unusual times. I was just taking off my mask, and I will speak without the mask. Because we are having these distances here to the other participants. First of all, I would like to thank both Israel and Slovenia for organizing this event and together with WMO, and I'm very grateful for your presence even in this meeting room. If you look at the future at the moment, there are 2 major challenges and 2 major opportunities, and the other one is climate change, as you are very well aware of. So climate change is going to be a challenge for us, but it's also an opportunity to adapt to climate change, and especially when we mitigate to climate change, we need new business activities and new. It offers also new opportunities for many actors. The other challenge that we are facing, an opportunity we are facing, is the fact that the world is going to be more digital in the future, and this digitalization is a common issue where we have, again, both positive things and negative things to be expected. So this digitalization is clearly a new business opportunity all in all, and in the UN family we have to make sure that it will treat all of the members in an equal manner. And on the other hand, we have to make sure that the security part of the digitalization is handled in the proper way, and that's one of the issues that we are going to discuss today. But I would like to say a few words about the climate change and water, which is the other theme of today's discussion. So in Anglo-American discussions, we are talking about global warming, and to me that's a little bit the misleading term. I would prefer to talk about climate change, because most of the impacts of climate change, they are not so much related to the temperature increase, but they are much more felt through changes in global precipitation patterns and related disasters. So we are talking about drought, we are talking about flooding, we are talking about melting of glaciers and lack of water in rivers, and that's so far has been the major challenge, and it will be even more so in the future. And both of our host organizers here, both Israel and Slovenia, have been facing water challenges so far. In case of Israel, you have been facing drought, and your location globally is very dry area, and I think that you have created very fancy ways how to adapt to that, how you treat wastewater and how this water hydrological cycle is handled in your country. I think that's you have expertise which is needed worldwide. And Slovenia, you are also exposed to these kind of challenges. You have faced severe flooding in your country, and sometimes you are also facing drought, and that's also your expertise is very much needed, and you have been playing a leading role in southeastern European countries in that respect. So thanks for that. And we already see the negative impacts of water scarcity. You know, this Arab Spring, which was leading to changes in governments in Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, and Syria, and of course the Syrian crisis still continues. And one of the reasons behind that Arab Spring was a severe drought in the region, and unfortunately the future scenarios of climate look that this Mediterranean region will suffer of drought also in the future. So that's going to be a growing problem. And especially we are concerned of the situation in Africa, where we expect to see even 4 billion inhabitants by the end of this century, and many countries are already having difficulties in provision of healthcare, education, or employment for the young people, and that's clearly going to be a source of crises in the future, and even military crises, and for sure it's going to be a source of refugee challenges. And from WMO's side, we have decided to do something from our side, and we are just building a climate water consortium for Sustainable Development Goal 6 accelerator and implementation, and we have already 10 interested UN partners and several interested countries who are ready to contribute to this target. And the idea is to launch this initiative a year from now, when we hopefully can organize WMO Congress physically here in Geneva. So this today's theme is also contributing to that the Sustainable Development Goal 6 accelerator business. So with these words, welcome to the event, and I'm grateful that this could be organized despite of these unusual times. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Petri, for your introduction. I think I would like to take 1 or 2 minutes to again specify really the objective that we have today and the outcomes we hope to take with us from this meeting. So while we have things like the Budapest Convention and other legal discussions in the legal community on cybercrime or cybersecurity, the impact of cybercrime or cyber terrorism, or just kids who want to play with opportunities on water infrastructure, often comes as a surprise. And this is not only for countries where you would expect that they are more prone to cyber attacks, but it also really hits infrastructure in very well-developed countries where you would think, okay, well, these countries should all be prepared also in the water sector and have their systems prone. So while we have some discussion or important discussion in the legal and policy arena, the link to the real topic of water security for water infrastructure is a weak one. And we would like to discuss today what could be the opportunities or the chances that cooperation around cybersecurity in data, in operations, in protection of people and infrastructure could bring in the practical terms for cooperation. Also, importantly for WMO, because a lot of our national hydro and meteorological services, of course, deal with data that is in some aspects also regarded as essential for the safety and security of water supply, of flood protection, and so forth. So our goal today is to build a bridge between the legal debate and the practical aspects of how cooperation can benefit the water sector in operational terms. And we would like to hear from national, international, and regional perspectives today, what experiences are and what the views are, how we can improve this cooperation or how we can turn the negative impact of terrorists or criminal cyber acts on water infrastructure into a positive, practical opportunity to improve our cooperation and actually to turn this disadvantage into a strength when we want to provide more robust and more secure water infrastructure for people around the globe. So with these guiding words again, I would like to really start right away, medias res, with our first panel. So we first go into national presentations, and we have a moderator there from Slovenia, which is Ivana Bostjanovic, but also we have the Director of Information Security from Slovenia connected, Dr. Svete. So please, Dr. Svete, can you say a few words and then pass the floor to Ivana for moderating our first panel. And if you haven't done so already, please click the request to speak button that is blue on your screen. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the Slovenian National Competent Authority for Cybersecurity, the Information Security Administration, I would like firstly to thank the organizers of this conference, the permanent missions of the Republic of Slovenia and Israel to the United Nations office in Geneva, as well as the World Meteorological Organization for organizing this event. As we all know, water is a fundamental condition of human survival. Water is the basis for the resilience of societies and the natural environment. Water has no substitute. The only substitute for the water is water. Slovenia is a country rich with water resources and is well aware of the necessity to respect water resources. Slovenia has therefore always acted upon this topic, but it is through its water diplomacy activities, transboundary water cooperation, or development assistance. Water will be high on the agenda during the EU Council presidency in the second half of 2021 as well, where also cybersecurity, a part of strengthening overall EU resilience, will be one of our main priorities. Slovenia believes that cybersecurity should be better streamlined into overall EU crisis management. And in this regard, we think that EU should further strengthen its resilience to cybersecurity attacks with appropriate plans of action and in responding to them. Cybersecurity presents a clear danger and can cause major damage to the water infrastructure. Water infrastructure, including hydropower facilities, water distribution systems, and wastewater utilities, must therefore adopt protective measures to prevent or minimize possible fallout. Debate today will focus on the national presentations, how countries are dealing with this imminent threat in Slovenia, Israel, Hungary, and Switzerland. We would like to learn about the national approaches regarding the awareness raising, risk preparedness, and crisis response. In the EU, the NIS directive is the first piece of EU-wide legislation on cybersecurity and provides legal measures to boost the overall level of cybersecurity. The directive on security of network and information systems was adopted by the EU, by the European Parliament in 2016. Member states have to transpose the directive into the national laws by May 2018 and identify operators of essential services by November 2018. You will learn more about it in the next panel. So since we have only 50 minutes, I would kindly ask distinguished speakers not to be longer than 4 minutes so that we also have some time for discussion at the end of the panel. And I will now hand over the moderation of this panel to my colleague Ivana Boštjančić-Pulko in order to assure better gender balance of the panel. So Ivana, please take over the chairing of this session. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Svete, and I would like to pass the floor to Ivana to moderate now our first panel that will give us a view on how the national contexts deal with this issue. Please.
Thank you very much. Also welcome from my side. I would like to welcome the distinguished panelists on our panel, Mr. Jože Tomec from Public Utility Voka Snaga Slovenia, Mr. Dani Leker from the Water Authority from Israel, Mr. Ranan Adin, Water Association from Israel, Mr. Tamás Berovai from the General Directorate of Water Management from Hungary, and Mr. Jon Fanzun, Special Envoy for Cyber, Foreign and Security Policy from the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs of Switzerland. Not to lose too much time, I would kindly invite Mr. Tomec to take the floor. He has been working for Ljubljana Drinking Water Company since 2006 and has managed the drinking water supply division since 2011, and he also cooperates as a member of the European Federation of National Associations of Water Services. Mr. Tomec, the floor is yours.
Hello. Good morning to everyone. I would like to talk about cybersecurity and water supply. It is more than obvious that the shift is needed from classical thinking about vulnerability and threats regarding drinking water supply, and that it's like mentioned before, drought. We are after all present at the meeting organized by the World Meteorological Organization. Loss of water resources, major defects, issues with information system in the direction of cybersecurity. Nowadays, we cannot imagine drinking water supply without information technology and constantly increasing connectivity of devices, objects, facilities, sensors, and controllers. Such network can, of course, easily become the target of cyber attacks. The integration of cybersecurity in everyday implementation of services is of a great importance. Constant risk assessment, testing, use of appropriate products, mainly new products, adequate technology, and of course, a compliance with the security policy. The important part in this belongs to the awareness rising and training of employees, mostly in the sense of social engineering methods and phishing. For cyber security to be efficient, it is very important to be aware that everyone working in the area of drinking water supply is responsible for cybersecurity. That is why it is vital that cybersecurity is integrated in the system of drinking water supply. I would like to emphasize three key messages. The first one is the importance of legislation. Why is legislation important? Because in practice, we do things as needed, everything works and functioning properly, but the procedures are sometimes not documented. The important role in drinking water supply in Slovenia has Information Security Act. I can say that we systematically organize documented system of information security with the help of this legislation framework. I should mention above all that the recovery plan and the restoration plan for operation of information system and also the plan for responding to incidents with notification protocol. What is also important is the implementation of standards like business continuity management system. The second one is inclusion of external companies who are professionally specialized in the area of information security, verification of plans and cybersecurity. That ensures an independent evaluation or assessment of information security and cybersecurity. And the third one is that a company has to identify what is critical and vital in the process itself, from vital pumps and pipelines to key control and monitoring systems. A very important part plays the system redundancy or duplication of key elements in water supply system. In practice, that means that when all other things fail, we can still operate manually and thus enable drinking water supply. That's all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tomec, for your insight, how you are dealing with cybersecurity at Ljubljana Drinking Water Company. I would now like to invite Mr. Danny Leker. He's the head of the Water Security and Emergency Division of the Israeli Water Authority and has over 20 years of experience on water and emergency. Mr. Leker, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much.
Sorry,
I would like
Mr.
to.
Leker, can
Yes,
we?
can you hear me?
You have. Sorry to interrupt you. You have sent in a presentation. We are able to share it if you would like to show your slides.
I'll be glad if that's possible. Yeah. I'll be glad. I will start talking while you're putting it on.
Maud, please share the slides.
Anyway, my perspective. Okay, thank you. And until it will come to the screen, I would like to say that I will try to focus as a regulator what are the main issues that we are trying to do on cybersecurity. Thank you. First of all, how much crucial is water? I won't go into it. We all understand that we cannot stop and supply water anytime. But if, can I play with the screen or can you do the slides?
We will.
Never mind, you were trying to operate it. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the other one, to the next one, please. We'll skip the film and go to the next one to be short and accurate. And as you understand, Israel is already under cyber attack in general and also specifically on water issues and on water facilities. On the last 6 months, we had almost on a daily basis attacked, especially from Iran, but from other groups as well. They're trying to attack Israel in general, and specifically in the last coming month on water facilities. If you can move on, please. Anyway, I must assure you, and I can assure you, that no person in Israel felt any disruptions in water supply. And I think the major reason for that, and I'm trying to connect to my colleague that talked before me, I think that you cannot look at cybersecurity as one thing only. You have to put it in a wider angle. And if you have a redundancy system, then you can move on. It's okay. If you have a redundancy system, that even if you are suffering some cyber attacks, let's say from several issues and several, let's say, attacks, you can still operate the system without relying on a single component. And I think when you're planning a water system and operating a water system, that's the first stage that you have to take in place. You must think that you might suffer cybersecurity or other security attacks, and you cannot rely on one specific component that if it's failed, it won't be operating. On the other hand, it costs you, if you have a lot of component, it's a wild blanket that you have to protect on. And what we are doing in Israel, let's stop on this slide, it's okay. What we are doing in this component, in this way of thinking as a regulator, we are basically doing 3 major things. First, we have called procedures that we are supplying to all water facilities and all water suppliers in Israel. And we as a regulator are making a lot of efforts to make sure that they are operating that way, meaning that we are a lot on the field, meaning that we are doing a lot of checkups and a lot of drills and a lot of activities with the water consumers to make sure that they are protected. But water consumers won't be cooperative in this kind of activity unless they will know that they can gain something from this activity. It's not enough that I am in charge of security and cybersecurity in water section in Israel. They have to know that when something will happen, and unfortunately we had several attacks during the last period of time, they know that my team and myself will be the first guy to engage and come to the field and help them deal with this system. So you have to create this combining a relationship with the water suppliers. On the one hand, you have to be tough and demanding and make sure that they are having all the regulatory, all the drills and so on, but they have to know that we can rely one on another. In times of crisis, they know that we will be on the field and assist them to deal with those cyber activities. We're right now building what we're calling a SOC, Security Operations Center, that will engage all major water facilities in Israel, all major systems like desalination, wells, sewage water, and also large municipal utilities that deals with the water supply. And they'll be detected by a national SOC, Security Operational Center, that will detect cyber attacks or cyber activity and be able to, again, assist one another in times of crisis and spread the word when we have something happening. I would like to summarize with one thing I think is very crucial, and my colleague said it before, about the ability to operate manually. I will tell you a short story about my son. My son is 27 years old, and he's studying right now computer engineering. And a few months ago, he called me from the university, and he told me, "Hey, Dad, my car won't start." So I told them, I put you some jumpers in your car. You can start your car with the cables. It's not that he didn't even know how to use it. He didn't understand what I was talking about. Now try to understand and analyze that he is the kind of the new generation of employees and engineers in water systems. So we have to know that that's the kind of youth that we are dealing with. And we have to make sure that they know how to operate pumps manually and how to replace pipe manually, not only using their iPhones. So I think in general, that's the main message I would like to send. We have to be able to operate manually. We have to be very much on site, and we have to make sure that we all are demanding to water suppliers are being trained, being detected, and also that we have good relationship with them, that we not only know them by name, we know them by looking in their eyes. That's for the time being, and thank you. It's my honor to be here.
Mr. Lecker, thank you very much for your presentation. I would now like to invite Mr. Ranan Adin. He is a strategic advisor to public and private organizations worldwide and in water resource management and water security. He has been chairman of Israel Water Association since 2018. Mr. Adin, please, the floor is yours.
I would like, first of all, to thank the World Meteorological Organization and the Slovenian and Israeli missions for organizing this very important event. We'll start type sharing, so it will be easier for me to explain a few things. In this short presentation, I will highlight the unique characteristics of water in view of cyber threats. Now, since not everyone is as knowledgeable as my fellow speakers, and to a true understanding of the challenges we are dealing with, I will start with the basics, and let's say that this is the first step of raising awareness. We can describe a typical water supply corporation as having two parts, IT and OT. IT stands for information technologies and refers to administrative systems such as customer support management, billing, human resources, and accounting. OT stands for operation technologies and refers to controllers that operate pumps, valves, and chemical dosing systems, and controllers that read sensors of hydraulic and water quality parameters. In view of cyber threats, we could say that the IT part is a target for attacks such as ransom and phishing, which are aimed at the information. And the OT part is a target for generating physical harm through manipulation of commands or of the equipment, or manipulation of readouts of the sensors. Now, this description applies to wastewater collection and treatment, to dams, and even to operators of water and wastewater facilities in large industrial operations. Now again, generally speaking, the IT part is similar to IT part of any service provider, electricity, gas, and even public transportation and universities. And as mentioned before, and most people bring this to the front when we talk about cybersecurity, the risk assessment and mitigation in IT systems is relatively well established, and a high level of protection can be achieved if things are done correctly. But what's more important for me is to understand the challenges in risk management and mitigation of the OT part. So for that, I'd like to look together with you at some of water's unique characteristics. First of all, water is a medium. It's a physical medium. And not just one, there are several types of water mediums, like potable water, wastewater, effluent, and sludge. These are just a few examples. And these mediums can carry pathogens and toxic chemicals to a large population and to the environment. And these can reach distant areas much faster than we usually imagine. A typical flow rate in the water system is 1 meter per second. Now that means more than 10 kilometers in just 3 hours. All that can disrupt ecosystems because we are bringing water that is not compatible with the existing flora and fauna. And even after an event, when we've resolved the cyber issue, we many times need to clean up the system in order to allow industry and commerce and agriculture and normal operation to return. Now, add to this that every water system has a unique design, and I believe that the difficulty is evident. And the focus on the OT, which is it is a smaller part of the attention, but a larger part of what can generate the harm. This attention is very, very, very important. Now, to further illustrate the complexity of this risk assessment, I don't want to show a specific vulnerability, so I will present a case study of a storm that hit Wyoming in the United States 3 years ago. Okay? This was a natural climatic event. And as you can see in the picture, strong winds knocked down the power lines and caused a blackout. The water supply had backup power, but the sewage pumping stations that are used in the collection system did not. Now, since water continued to be used, after a few days, the sewage system filled up and there was a risk of sewage overflow, which is a hazard. It's unpleasant and causes damages, physical damages, and of course damages to the environment. To avoid this, they had to shut down the water supply and stop filling up the wastewater. And that forced the town to be evacuated. So the bottom line is, when you look at this complex event, disrupting sewage pumps might cause evacuation of a city. Now, each one of you can scale this up in your national or regional scale. And my time is up, so how to mitigate this effectively? It's possible. I believe we can leave this to the Q&A. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adin. I would like to thank all the speakers for being on time, and also to tell the audience that questions are possible in the chat box, and it seems we will have enough time at the end to address some of them. Let's move on. I would like to introduce our next speaker from Hungary, Mr. Tamás Belovai. He's a flood control management engineer who works at the Hungarian General Directorate of Water Management, and he participates in national flood management development projects and in transboundary water committees. Mr. Belovai, please take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning for everybody. I hope hear me everybody. So I would like to start my presentation. So water and cyber, protecting critical infrastructure in Hungary. I want to show you a small introduction about our system and about our critical system in the critical infrastructure in the water sector. Before that, we need to recognize that our information system and networks, including the water sector, are increasingly faced with the security threats from a wide variety of sources. These threats including economic intelligence, industrial espionage, computer fraud, sabotage, vandalism, fire or flooding. Forms of international damages such as computer viruses, hacking or denial of service attacks are becoming more common and common, but they are also becoming more reckless and complex. So this is the most important that we handled these things. So what does it mean, critical infrastructure in Hungary? We from the early 2000 years, we emphasize its place on the protection of domestic vital services and facilities. However, our occasion to the EU we entered the EU in 2004. We gave a first impetus to implementation of critical infrastructure protection. The elaboration of the national program started in 2007 and then 2008. And the Hungarian born the government decision, which is the legal big background, identification and designation of critical infrastructures. The water-related critical infrastructures are cover the water supplying, surface and groundwater resources, wastewater infrastructures, protecting water resources and flood protection structures, which are including dikes, reservoirs, barriers, and the other side from hydro power structures. These are the water-related critical infrastructures, and what are the threats? We can divide two sides. From the nature side, of course, flooding or weather or other or climate changing. And from the human side, hackers, those seeking personal benefits, organized crime agents, foreign spies, terrorists, enemies, or armed force. These are the threatened sides, and it is very important to clarify who is responsible for protecting these water-related critical infrastructures. As you can hear in the introduction, I work for the General Directorate of Water Management, which is under the Ministry of Interior. And we have 12 regional directorate which are situated in the watershed areas. So let's move on. I put two questions in my PowerPoint. How to increase the awareness and resilience of water sectors. At the national level, the safety awareness of the water sector can be increased by organizing IT trainings. The trainings is a very important thing for preparing human resources, and the technology used in cyber attacks depends on the motivation of attackers. The main motivation for these are making money and accessing information, in some cases intentional harm. The attacks target infrastructures and users, so we have to prepare to fend off this attack. So the training is the most important element of the preparing side. So e-learning and classroom education, live performance and newsletters are very good tool to prepare how to prevent and how to protect our facilities. And the last slide, how to improve cybersecurity in transboundary water mechanism. Hungary is situated in the Carpathian Basin and in the Danube River Basin. There are many countries are neighboring, and we have to face with other countries implementation in for example in flood protection. So we have transboundary committees, all neighboring countries, and very important to share knowledge and share the best solution to improve our cybersecurity. Thank you very much, and I hope not to exceed my time limit. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Belovaj, for this insight into the Hungarian system. And we came to the last speaker of this panel, Mr. Jon Albert van Zoon. He's the Special Envoy for Cyber, Foreign and Security Policy at the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs of Switzerland. And he is responsible for strategic and operational management and design of Switzerland's cyber, foreign and security policy. Please, Mr. van Zoon, the floor is yours.
Mr. Jon van Zoon, you need to request the floor by clicking on Request to Speak button. Thank you. Mr. Jon van Zoon, please request the floor by clicking on Request to Speak button on your bottom right corner. Thank you.
We can hear you, but not so well, unfortunately, but we cannot see you.
Okay, but I'm on my mobile phone and I couldn't connect anymore, so sorry. I hope you can hear me now. You can hear me?
Much better, much better.
Okay, sorry, I had a technical problem.
No problem.
So I tried to be short. So the protection of critical water-related infrastructure is an issue that needs to be addressed at multiple levels by strengthening resilience in the face of an attack, but also by further clarifying the global rules and norms in cyberspace. Let me firstly outline the domestic level. Switzerland is a much decentralized country. It's a federation. Each of the 26 cantons has its own constitution. The powers of the Swiss Confederation are therefore limited. In addition, there are more than 2,000 municipalities that also have their say. That means that as a confederation, we have to work closely and on a voluntary basis with cantons, municipalities, and also the private sector to achieve a greater cybersecurity. So one might say that cybersecurity is a team sport, not in Switzerland, but probably all over the world, as we also heard today. This has been reflected in our national cybersecurity strategy 2018-2022, which focuses on expanding the cooperation between the federal government, the cantons, and the communal level in order to advance implementation of the strategy. Moving to the water sector, let me give you an example how public-private partnerships work in making our drinking water supply safe against cyber threats. It is often the municipalities that own the more than 2,500 organizations responsible for drinking water supply in Switzerland. Those relatively small companies are organized in a national branch association, which acts as a main agent for the transfer of knowledge. Together with the Federal Office for National Economy Supply, this branch association has published an ICT minimum standards for water supply. This standards is based on the cybersecurity framework developed by the US National Institute of Standards and Technology. The minimum ICT standards follows a risk-based approach. So far, we are not aware about any successful cyber attacks on drinking water supply in Switzerland, but several attacks have been fended off in the past. Another important area I want just to highlight is, of course, hydropower, with about 60% of Switzerland electricity being generated from this source. Again, the Federal Office for National Economy Supply, together with the relevant branch association, has developed also in this field ICT minimal standards for electricity grids and power stations. So far for the domestic level, and the one takeaway I want to highlight here is that public-private partnership, in our view, is key for cybersecurity in Switzerland, in the water sector, but also in other sectors. Just a brief view at the international level, because I'm dealing with the foreign policy. In the UN context, we support enhanced efforts for the implementation of the norm recommended by the UNGGE in its 2015 report, which encourages states to not conduct or knowingly support hostile cybersecurity operations against critical infrastructures. The norm in our view also reflects a key rule of state responsibility, as international damaging or impairing the use of critical infrastructure, depending on the consequences and intent, may constitute an internationally wrongful act, such as an infringement of state sovereignty or intervention. In our view, water supply and energy facilities are protected by this norm. International reference documents on states' obligations around the protection of critical infrastructure constitutes, in our view, very valuable guidance relevant for states in the protection of water facilities from cyber attacks. In particular, I would like to mention the Geneva list of principles on the protection of water infrastructure based on the recommendations in the report of the Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace, and developed by the Geneva Water Hubs Platform for International Water Law. Switzerland will stay engaged in further clarifying the application of these norms of responsible state behavior, including also with regard to critical water infrastructure. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Fanzon, for this view of how Switzerland sees the cybersecurity issues related to water infrastructure. I'm looking at the chat box and I do not see any specific questions apart from the one regarding the presentations, whether that will be available. Afterwards, I will leave this question to the organizer. I must say, to sum up a little bit, it was a very interesting insight into the Slovenian, Israeli, Hungarian, Swiss systems. And I'm happy to hear that it seems we have very resilient systems for water supply in terms of cybersecurity. I would like to thank both Mr. Tomec and Mr. Belovaj for stressing the importance of legislation and also stemming from the EU regarding the operators of essential services and critical infrastructure. Then I believe it was very important, the message from Mr. Lecker about the ability to operate manually, and Mr. Adin stressing the difference between the IT and OT, and all of you also stressing the importance of identifying threats, because that's what is making our systems resilient. And also, I believe the conclusion by Mr. Fanzun was very important about stressing the importance of global rules and norms for behavior in international arena. At this stage, if there are no more questions, I would maybe ask another question for all the panelists if someone would like to reply, because it seemed that the systems in your and my own country are quite well established and, like I mentioned, resilient. Do you have maybe any further recommendations? How could they still be improved in the future based on everything we have already, but still are there any gaps that could be further improved? Mr. Lecker?
Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay, so I would like to refer this question. If I could give one advice to all water suppliers, never mind where, make sure that your facilities are disconnected from the internet. The internet is usually having like a lot of great thing inside of it, but also a lot of bad issues inside of it. There's a lot of abilities how to disconnect the system from the internet, operate it on a different level and a different kind of communication. And again, make sure that you have also the ability to operate manually. I think that's the main gap. If you can do those both things, be able to operate manually and also disconnect your system from the internet and operate it with other connection levels, you're halfway to solve all the problems.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Any other comment maybe from the panel? If not, then I would really like to thank once again distinguished speakers for this very interesting. Oh, Mr. Adin?
Yes, I don't know. I seem to have pressed the wrong button, either that or we already have a hacker in the system.
Hopefully not.
Well, Danny gave us half of the way. I will try giving the other half. The other half is we have to work on this in multidisciplinary teams of water and cyber. Right? These are two different cultures, sometimes two different languages. And by working together, it's possible to implement cybersecurity in the water systems, even sometimes without cyber tools, because that's how we understand the risk and mitigate it in the right way. And this, it can't be done on things which already exist, but in new facilities or during upgrades, this cyber part of the cyber considerations should be there from the start together with everything else. Like you wouldn't put the Mona Lisa in the museum before you had the security ready. We sometimes tend to run forward with the digitalization and then ask ourselves, okay, now let's remind everyone that it causes a vulnerability or sensitivity. So one of the key issues in this conference is doing exactly that. It's saying, okay, cyber is as important as anything else and should be addressed together from the start.
Perfect. Thank you so much for these concluding messages. We need to conclude this panel now. It's 11 o'clock, so happy that we were on time. And now I would like to invite the second panel to continue. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Ivana, for moderating this panel, and thanks for all the speakers. We would now like to go away from a national perspective, and I know that national perspectives, of course, many times are really sensitive, and that we very easily are tempted to make a national instance from our perspective a topic, but really this event here is about trying to find cooperative solutions. So let's not look too much at whom we need to blame for this or for that or this, but let's try to really focus on finding solutions, how in a cooperative way we can improve the security for the people who live in our country. So I would like to really remind you that this is the main spirit that I would like us to discuss this topic in here. So it doesn't help to point fingers, it helps to shake hands and to work together on this topic. And in our second little discussion, where we have a more regional perspective, I think we will see that regional cooperation, and we have heard this from the national perspective, is an important transporter for more robust systems and for more security in water supply or in protective systems. So I think I would like to guide you into that next session of our event today by introducing our first speaker. Leonardo De Vizio is a policy officer in the European Commission in the Directorate for General Communication Networks. And he will talk about the Directive on Network and Information Systems. Leonardo holds a master's in economy and management, and he is also a graduate of the Hertie School of Governance, like myself. So I am very happy to welcome you here, Leonardo. I don't think we crossed our paths in Berlin, but it is very nice to see that we partially have some similar background. So Leonardo, can you please take the floor and introduce the direction and tell us how we can really transform this into tangible and operable possibilities for the water sector?
Thanks a lot, Chair, for giving me the floor. And indeed, it's also nice to see that we have a similar background. I would like to briefly, let's say, describe to you what is the framework for cybersecurity of critical infrastructures, the way we call it in the NIS Directive, Operators of Essential Services in Europe. And you can switch to the first slide. So what is the NIS Directive? Basically, the NIS Directive is the first horizontal cybersecurity law that was adopted in the European Union, and this was the case in 2016. The main element, let's say, of the NIS Directive, or the main goal, is to make sure that the internal market is resilient enough. So the message is that basically cybersecurity is an essential feature, not only for ensuring, let's say, indeed the security of critical infrastructures, but also to make sure that our societies and our economies function properly. In order to do so, the NIS Directive basically identifies several sectors in which operators are required to adopt cybersecurity measures, so risk management measures. These are basically security requirements that are technologically neutral and that also support the implementation of international standards, for example. And at the same time, of course, we understand that this is a risk management process, so incidents are still could still happen. And this means that those kind of operators, which are called operators of essential services, should also notify incidents, significant incidents, to national authorities in a way that the authorities, especially through CERTs, that in Europe are called Computer Security Incident Response Teams, CSIRTs, can help the operators to, let's say, mitigate the effects and recover. When it comes to drinking water, let's say that drinking water management has been identified as one of the critical sectors under the NIS. There are 7 critical sectors, ranging from energy to transport to financial services to hospitals, for example. And I think this shows how important it is also to use regulation as a tool to increase the maturity of all sectors, especially those that are more critical. We find that, especially when it comes to the NIS directive, those drinking water operators that are subject to the regulation have now additional tools, let's say, or more incentives to indeed implement cybersecurity measures, especially in a sector that is most of the times characterized by public sector companies that may be owned by the regional or the local municipality, let's say at regional level. And this means that a lot of times there may be some constraints in terms of budget. Also, very important, what was specified before, so the fact that each sector is different and each sector may have specificities, such as the issue of legacy technology or the IT versus OT, of course, question, or the importance, let's say, in certain sectors of SCADA systems, for example, is more pronounced than in others. Because of that, we think that it's important to have a tailor-made approach to different sectors and also to have cooperation. This is the case under the NIS directive when it comes to cooperation and implementation of the directive. The directive established 2 types of groups, one at more technical level between CSIRTs, where member states can exchange more operational information, and one at more strategic level among competent authorities, where member states basically can discuss legal issues, but also supervision issues, or even indeed compare the requirements that have been identified at national level. We think that this is key in order to share good practices and at the same time to align and to find common approaches to the cybersecurity of the different sectors, making sure that, for example, national strength in several sectors can be shared also with others, and also others can benefit. I would now pass to the last slide that I have, just to tell you that in this, when it comes to the NIS directive, and actually there was one previous one, yes, this one. So we think that this was a very important step for Europe. Like I said, the first EU law or cybersecurity EU law horizontally. At the same time, we also think that in order to really ensure coherence within the internal market and guarantee to operators the possibility to, let's say, make the most of the internal market, it's important to further increase the level of preparedness and try indeed to have more harmonious, let's say, requirements within the unit, and at the same time strengthen efforts when it comes to supervision and enforcement. This can indeed further, let's say, promote awareness within companies. Last but not least, we also think that one key part of the puzzle is cooperation. So not only among member states, as I mentioned, but also between public and private sector. This is why we already support the establishment of sectorial information sharing analysis centers, ISACs, but we would like to do this even further with the revision of the NIS directive that will come hopefully by the end of this year. Yes, so these are the let's say the key messages that I wanted to pass, and I welcome, of course, your questions, or in case you need for clarifications, please. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. thanks a lot, Leonardo, for your insight here. I think you have made important points about that we really need to equip especially public sector actors with the right tools, and how we need to make sure that there is a system how we can monitor and improve, or as you say, also enforce how directives within a legal construct like the EU are actually followed by different players. I think that you emphasize cooperation is another very important aspect that has been reflected earlier by other speakers, and I am very much interested because we are also thinking about the follow-up of this event here about these information centers that you have very briefly mentioned in the last part of your intervention. So maybe you could send us some more information, or maybe we can follow up on what the EU is actually trying to set up in terms of mechanisms or structures, so that we can actually use them as those interfaces between different actors, between different member states of the EU, but could also be member states of UN economic regions or of UN members, and of course cross-sectoral, how you go about this and what your concepts are there, because this is something that in the build-up of today was discussed several times. So what is really the tool, or what are the possibilities to take a positive attitude to a problem and to transform the threat or the challenge into, at least as far as we can, into a benefit through cooperation. So that's something that I'm very much interested in. Thanks a lot for your intervention. And I would like to introduce our second speaker. Sonia Köppel is a long-term colleague of mine. She leads the Water Convention in the UN Economic Commission for Europe. We have worked a long time alongside on water issues in the UN system, and before Sonia came to Geneva to work with the UNECE, she was also stationed in Nairobi with UNEP. So Sonia, please tell us a little bit about the Water Convention, and maybe you can give us the one or the other hint how in ECE there are maybe some vehicles that we could really try to use or to build upon to make this, to bridge this divide that I see, really also based on all the different interventions that we had between the legal and the IT world and the more practical application world of a water utility or a hydrological service. Sonia, the floor is yours.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I'm afraid my camera doesn't seem to work. Sorry for this. First, thank you very much for the invitation. And as it was mentioned by some predecessor speakers, a significant part, approximately 60% of freshwater worldwide, flows in basins shared by 2 or more countries. And this needs to be taken into account when planning, constructing, implementing, and maintaining water-related infrastructure. Cyber attacks on major water-related infrastructure in one country, for example, when it's located upstream, can have significant impacts on other countries in the basin, for example, downstream. Cooperation on infrastructure in such shared basins is important. And there are also some good practice examples in some basins, such as the Senegal or Gambia basins in Western Africa. Dams and water storage infrastructure are even partly jointly constructed and owned and managed by the different member states. And this cooperation can then also cover cybersecurity issues if it's considered relevant. The Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Watercourses and International Lakes, or in short, the Water Convention, provides a unique, now global legal and intergovernmental framework for transboundary water cooperation. It aims to prevent, control, and reduce transboundary impacts by facilitating cooperation. It was initially negotiated as a regional instrument. It is serviced by UNECE, but it has been opened up for accession to all United Nations member states in 2016. And so far, Chad, Ghana, and Senegal acceded to it, and more than 120 countries worldwide participate in the activities. But here I was asked to speak not about the global convention, but more about the regional level. And therefore, I will focus a bit more on some of the regional activities and lessons learned by UNECE in the UNECE region. As it was also already said, in some countries, particularly transition and developing countries, and I think we have to also look at them in these discussions, some of the critical water-related infrastructure is old or obsolete or not safe anymore. This is particularly problematic when we talk about large infrastructure, such as hydropower storage facilities and dams. And this is, for example, a problem in Central Asia, but in many other regions of the world as well. And here, UNECE has been working with the Central Asian countries to help them improve the safe management of the dams, particularly those located on transboundary rivers. On the one hand, by focusing on strengthening of legislation and institution at the national level, as it was stressed by some of the predecessors, this is very important. And on the other hand, training needs to be provided on the safe operation of the hydrotechnical installations, capacity building, and that's what is also happening. On the other hand, support is provided on safe operation of individual dams. And finally, at the regional level, support is being provided to develop harmonized technical documentation across borders, to exchange relevant data and information, and to establish early warning systems to ensure preparedness in case of risk of accidents and attacks. And here, it is very promising that last year, the countries have expressed an interest in developing a region-wide agreement in Central Asia on dam safety in order to improve the safety of the hydraulic structures in the region. Then on another level, cybersecurity is also being discussed and addressed within UNECE within its trade division, and particularly the Working Party on Regulatory Cooperation and Standardization Policies. This work aims to promote the convergence of national technical regulations towards a shared framework which is based on a risk-based approach and other international best practices. This will eventually increase, or is aimed to increase the level of data protection for different essential services, not only water-related infrastructure, but also, for example, health and other energy infrastructure and others. In this regard, currently under discussion is the development of a common regulatory framework on cybersecurity in the framework of this expert group which I mentioned. It will have components on data protection, reliability, continuity, safety, and security of critical infrastructure, such as energy supply, water supply, wastewater treatment, transport, and other essential services. If, in case of more information, my colleagues from the trade section are the right counterparts. So just to conclude, indeed, I would say that there is a need for more international, regional, and transboundary cooperation on the safety of critical water-related infrastructure. This should cover cybersecurity and also physical security of such infrastructure. and also encompass the adequate legal and regulatory frameworks in order then also to support implementation of the SDG 6 access to water and sanitation for all. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sonia, for your perspective. You have repeated some of the aspects and underlined their importance, I think, especially with regard to joint documentation, joint practices, and to bringing together communities in this regard. You have also again emphasized the training and capacity building needs. And it would, of course, be interesting to link in a follow-up of this what your colleagues are doing in this regard. So I think I don't see any questions directly related to Leonardo or your interventions at the moment. I also see that we are 5 minutes behind our schedule, so I would like to invite you to take a coffee break now. I would also, during the coffee break, encourage you, and we will have in the coffee break a slide up with an email where you can send comments or questions. So please don't feel shy, or also for those who are following us on the YouTube stream who cannot send questions in the Kudo chat, please address us with comments or questions or statements or requirements that we should take into account when we write the report of this event today, and when we together think about what could follow from here. So please give us these ideas or the requirements that you have during the break or anytime in the second part of our meeting. So please enjoy a coffee or a fresh air break, and join us again at 11:30. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being back on time. It's 11:30 and we want to continue with today's agenda. We have heard national views, or we have learned about national ways to deal with the topic of cybersecurity and water infrastructure in the first part, and we have had two inputs from the regional context. We now want to discuss with the private sector, and I would like to invite Mrs. Nena Dukosov from the Ministry of Economic Development and Technology in Slovenia to moderate this session, this panel in our event. The floor is yours, Nena.
From my computer now, and then invite the speakers for today's okay. Hello. Yeah, thank you very much. Welcome to our panel today. Today our panel is dedicated to the private sector concept of water, critical water related infrastructure. But according to the bios of our speakers and according to their area of work and of research, I would suggest maybe to focus on technology and how technology, what is the impact of the technology on sustainable development goals regarding that horizontal issues in connection with the cybersecurity, with security of data, and with the transfer of data through certain infrastructures. First, I would like to invite Ms. Kaja Ciglic. She's a Senior Director, Digital Diplomacy, leads Microsoft's work on digital peace, focusing on encouraging international peace and stability online. Previously, she worked on the company International Peace and Stability Online, in international cybersecurity policy work. Before joining Microsoft, she led the EEPCO worldwide technology practice in Seattle and worked as a director in EEPCO worldwide business office. She holds a BSc in International Relations and History and Master of Science in European Politics, both from London School of Economics. So, Kaja, can you explain a little bit? You have 5 minutes. What is the concept of Microsoft? How you deal with that modern requirements, and how you ensure the security and cyber physical systems also related the issues connected with sustainable development goals?
Sure, thank you. And thank you everyone for organizing this and inviting us to speak at this. I think this is a really timely conversation. I will be brief. I think in terms of water and cybersecurity, this is one of the most critical areas we have. Which is why it is a critical infrastructure. The global demand for water is rapidly growing, as we all know, and it is increasingly scarce, in particularly in certain water scarce areas. For an example, Cape Town last year came within days of running out of water. Chennai in India ran dry this summer. And I think these are occurrences that will continue to happen. To this end, I think it will be no surprise to anyone that I will disagree with one of the previous speakers who suggested that that we disconnect technology from the water facilities. I think increasingly technology will have to play in modern sort of whether it's cloud computing, which I think some of the other speakers will touch upon, whether it's AI and machine learning will play an important role in helping us manage water supply and ensuring that we are able to detect leaks quickly, that we are able to monitor and adjust to seasonal weather and residential use, particularly in large cities. And already there are some examples of how this is used today, pioneered predominantly through research institutions around the world, but also building upon cloud computing platforms. At the same time, as it was highlighted, this critical infrastructure has come under attack several times around the world. Israel was one example that was used. In the US, Atlanta, the whole city was crippled by a ransomware attack this summer, last year, where the water department was basically offline completely for several days. And similar attacks happened around the world. From a Microsoft perspective, we follow best cybersecurity practices as we do for all of our technologies, as highlighted by some of the speakers before. There are some great policy guidelines out there that focus on, that help companies focus on risk management. The NIST cybersecurity framework that Jan Fazoon mentioned is one such example. The European Network Information Security Directive is a similar one, but there are others around the world. And ensuring that you take a look at the criticality of the infrastructure and also the particular aspect of the infrastructure. So, for instance, the payment system is probably less critical to the security of the country in some cases than perhaps a system that operates the dam. So taking a look at and defining pretty precisely what are some of the requirements for what system is what we have been focused on in doing. The other thing that is critically important for us is the importance of ensuring that these type of infrastructures, and whether you look at drinking water, whether you look at dams, whether you look at sewage systems, all systems that can have a potential impact on humans and civilians around the world are very clearly marked as off limits to government actors. Again, this was mentioned earlier, there is a norm that's been agreed on not attacking critical infrastructure. I think there is an importance to underline that further when it comes to water and also clarifying how these infrastructures are defined around the world. At the same time, the vast majority of attacks continue to come from criminals, not states. So working with others, with water providers, but also with others in the industry to increase the capacity of cybersecurity around the world is something that we do. I will stop there because we only have a really short amount of time. I want to leave some room for questions.
Thank you very much, Kaya. Very interesting, and I think that we will have questions at the end, so that we can maybe more deeply explain certain things. We are also thinking in Slovenia while planning that recovery and resilience facility how to integrate the technology into water treatment and to optimize this, and also to make a better warranty for better quality and so on. Our next speaker is Mr. Tadej Slapnik. Today, can you join us? Today is CEO at Hashnet. This is a Slovenian DLT infrastructure company. He's a blockchain expert at UNC FACT. He's technical expert at the European Blockchain Partnership. He's an initiator and he's a signatory of Field the Future Declaration, which has a title Initiative Blockchain Europe, actively involved in promotion, development and smart regulation of blockchain and distributed ledger technology for achieving sustainable development goals. And he is definitely promoter of sustainable development goals worldwide. So please today tell us about how the technology can have an impact on SDGs.
Thank you, Nena. Hi to everybody. I would like to require a little bit of help with my presentation. I send it if it can be shared by you, by the organizers. If not, then I will just start without. Sorry?
You have an option to share the screen if you have your presentation at your computer.
I don't know what you see now.
We see a lot of documents.
Okay. Excuse me. So if you want to share your screen, it's better to share the application. So when you go to share screen, on the second tab, you will be able to choose the application instead of the entire screen.
Mm-hmm.
So first, please stop sharing and then try to reshare again.
No, again, I cannot. But okay, I can also try to do it without the presentation, if we agree, and of course you can share it afterwards. What it was mentioned, it was that I will share with some experiences that we have from Slovenia, where we in December last year launched Slovenia National Blockchain Service Infrastructure, C-Chain, and I will try to connect it with quite a lot of potentials that we see that also blockchain technology have on the field of water and cyber security, particularly on the field of protection of critical water-related infrastructure. I have to mention that by providing a secure and transparent and distributed ledger to record transactions between different parties, blockchain technology could fundamentally transform the way water resources are and will be managed and treated. And also harnessing blockchain capability could enable everybody from households, industry, consumers, water managers, and also policymakers to access the same and secure data on water quality and the quantity and make more informed decisions. Having this in mind, I would like to connect this with the potentials that Slovenia National Blockchain Service Infrastructure C-Chain offers. I will mention a little bit what actually we have and what provides. It's a national network enabling different use cases or different applications to be run on top of it. If I mention just a few of them, it's European Blockchain Service Infrastructure use cases on the field of notarization, digital identity, trusted data sharing. Also, we already integrated on C-Chain secure document blockchain exchange system, but also we see potentials on the field of some applications on the field of protection of critical water-related infrastructure to be integrated on. What I would like to also mention is that if we are thinking to use such an application, of course, the basic blockchain infrastructure should be secure, should be fast enough, should be resilient and compliant. And what what we are now in last 1 year are trying to achieve is that we are enabling testing different applications on national infrastructure. We have already few of them, and we have the debate today how public and private sector can cooperate here. I have to emphasize that all the testing of the infrastructure is hand in hand in cooperation with our company HashNet and Slovenian telecom operator Telemach, in close cooperation with the Slovenian Ministry of Economy. And if some further cooperation on particularly the field of protection of critical water-related infrastructure, here would be, I would like to call to cooperation maybe on development of some use cases related to this topic that will be also using blockchain technology, where of course we can implement it, integrate it and test it on Slovenian national blockchain infrastructure. Thank you for your attention.
SDGs and also how for which SDGs the technology is the most relevant. Now I would like to present the next speaker, Dr. Sarah Byton. She is CEO and founder of Cycloak. In this renewed expert in ICS, industrial control systems, and cyber physical security. She has over 20 years of experience in the Israeli cybersecurity industry. She is also CEO and founder of Cycloak. This is a leading Israeli cybersecurity consulting firm with unique expertise in SCADA security and secure embedded systems. Previously, she was VP Research and Development Senior Researcher at the Technion, Israel Institute of Technology, Hiroshi Fujiwara Cyber Security Research Center, and her research interests include security of embedded systems, including PLCs, vehicle, ECU, and trusted execution environments. In one of her recent works, she was a part of the team that found a zero-day vulnerability in a second Siemens PLC. Dr. Byton holds BA, Master of Science, and PhD degrees from the Faculty of Computer Science and Technion, Haifa, Israel. Please, Sarah, join us with your presentation.
Okay. I would like to thank you very much on the opportunity to present in this conference. I'm the CEO of Cycloak, a company of cyber experts in industrial control system, specifically water system.
Excuse me, we cannot hear you very well. It's very faint. Yeah, you have the floor again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, but it's very faint. Do you have a headset with a microphone?
Okay. I'll put my... Can you hear me now?
No, we cannot hear you.
this better?
No, it's still very faint. So from the setting, the cogwheel icon at the bottom, you can go to media settings and make sure that the correct device is selected.
Is this better now?
No, sorry. We will ask our technician to help you.
Can you hear me now?
Nina, this
Yeah.
is Johannes from WMO. I have seen that Shaul from Reali Technologies is also online. Maybe we can take him first if he can go now. Can you ask him to request the floor?
Okay, I agree. Shaul, if Mr. Shaul Rom, if you are present, please join us. Mr. Shaul Rom is the founder and CTO of Reali Technologies, and is a founder and CTO and is Israeli leader in SCADA and telemetry technologies, providing IoT, cloud-based real-time operation and managerial solutions for water, wastewater, energy, agriculture industry. With more than 30 years of track record in industrial control, instrumentation, field bus technologies, radio and cellular industrial IT in SCADA, Mr. Rom is an entrepreneur in the area of cloud technology for real-time remote control and monitoring. Under his leadership, Reali Technologies designed and developed the cutting-edge technology known globally as Realite Q. You correct me, please, if I didn't read it well. Furthermore, Mr. Rom is the founder and president of Topco Control and Automation, a leading Israeli company operating in industrial automation. And Mr. Rom is an instrumentation and control engineer. He teaches in several academic centers, and he is invited speaker in telemetry, industrial automation, SCADA, and control conferences. Mr. Rom has published numerous articles dealing with SCADA, intelligent water systems, remote control of facilities, telemetry, distributed systems, pressure monitoring, dynamic control, energy efficiency, global water supply management over the internet, and more. Today, he will present and his presentation has a title, "Does Global Trend of Using Cloud Computing Exposes Utilities to Cyber Threats or Provides Better Protection?" Please, Mr. Shaul Rom, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Do you get me? Do you hear me?
Can we hear you?
Yes. Is it okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, but somebody turned off my video, but that's okay.
Okay, you can start your presentation.
I'm not so pretty or handsome, so the picture, my photo is not, the camera is not needed. Oh, I can do it myself. Doesn't work. Anyhow, thank you very much for the long introduction that you did for me. And indeed, what I would like to speak about today is about the question whether global trend of using cloud computing really exposes utilities to cyber threats, or maybe it provides, I would say, better protection to the utilities. So just to...
I cannot hear you, Mr. Shaul.
You don't hear me? I can see in the monitor, I can see that my voice is okay. The audio mixer is okay. There's somebody else.
You can be heard in Geneva. Please just speak close to your microphone.
So do you hear me now better?
Now we hear you. We didn't.
Okay, that's fine.
I couldn't hear you before. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so I will not start from the beginning because it's in the past actually. What we see in the slide here is that difference between I would say the third generation of SCADA system, which are networked SCADA but connected locally to servers, and what we see in the right side is the fourth generation, which are the cloud-based SCADA system. Even in a snapshot, I'm sure that you see the difference between the two systems that are the left more complicated than the right one, meaning that local SCADA servers and local systems are much more complicated, and this information coming from a website named Secure SCADA, basically a German one. What is the fear of implementing cloud computing in utilities and in water business? The fear is because normally people think that I would say internet connected devices are more vulnerable from different attacks and so on. However, if you go to the last years of history of the development, you will find that cloud-based systems are not less secure than system protected by normal IT firewall or by the other things. And basically, in sometimes you will find that they are much more secure because the cyber technologies are evolving really dramatically during the last years, very similar to the big data and information growth, because there is no way back. I would like to strengthen what Kaya said about the thing that it cannot be done without internet connection, without the cloud. I believe so, and I hope I can convince some of you that this is the situation. However, you should remember that there's also a middle way. The middle way is not having everything on the internet and not having anything disconnected from the internet. The middle way is to have a fog computing, which is basically to have your own private cloud located in your, I would say, property, and that gives you the enjoyment of both options. Danny Lacker spoke in the previous time about the cyber attack that were done on Israeli, I would say, facilities. In April 2020, we started to suffer from these attacks. And I would say that none of cloud computing SCADA-based, or the fourth generation SCADA, were attacked. However, what was attacked was single units sporadic connected to the internet with fixed IP or something like this. And what was also attacked is a traditional SCADA system of one of the utility connected to 14 different pumping stations, and the servers in the municipality, in the utility, was attacked by the terrorist, I would say. And this is not because the sites and the pumping station were connected to the internet, that because something was connected to the internet in the utility offices. And if we look on Cyberix, also another Israeli company, report from last year, we can see the reason why to go to the cloud. Legacy SCADA system that don't have any internet technologies normally are more vulnerable, have more vulnerability in today's reality, because most of the cases, over 40% of industrial sites have at least one connection to the internet. So you take technology that is not meant to work in the internet, but you connect it to the internet. 53% of industrial sites have outed Windows system like XP or like X7. I think Kaya can also say something about it in the questions later. And 57% of them don't run the appropriate antivirus with updated signature, which is done automatically. 60% of the sites have at least one wireless access point, which is really one of the things that threat, I would say, organization. And 84% of sites have at least one remote access from remote device. So you are connected to the internet, but you don't protect yourself from the internet. That's what make it a little bit problematic. Adding to this, that industrial network contains maybe complex and other kind of OT protocols, and maybe Sarah can speak about it later, bring the results that I would say old-fashioned legacy SCADA that was not built to the internet are really less secure than modern fourth-generation SCADA systems that are connected to the web. Stuxnet, for example, was not evolving internet at all. And still it made the damage to the Iranian centrifuges without being connected to the internet. So not connecting things to the internet doesn't make you better or doesn't make you more secure. It's make you different and make you in a situation that you have to walk like, 20, 30 years ago and to go with your Jeep or tender or whatever, or truck to visit all the sites. In contrast to all these problems that we can see in legacy SCADA system, the accelerated development of cloud SCADA system that was designed for cyber and developed in the way that cyber has to be treated, they are much more secure now and they give better solution. Now, I will go back to what I said before. We can make in between. We can have fog computing, which is not really 100% cloud, but not really 100% local service. So fog computing is also a possibility. Adding to this, the need to have a lot of information, and if I look on what also Sonia said about that water utilities and water infrastructure are normally divided into several countries that share the infrastructure and the management, and adding to this the information, the huge information that has to be presented. If you look on the left side, in the left side, you can see traditional control room of water utility with a lot of screens. Normally will be 4 to 6 different displays and screens showing, each one of them shows different information from different system. While when you walk in the cloud, you can have at the right place, if you see here my sign, in the right side, you can see now a dashboard or presentation or display of cloud portal. Actually, most of these or everything here is real, and it was taken from real application that I made a snapshot from. And at one display, on one screen, on one device that can be even your mobile phone or tablet, you can go securely to the portal and have all information as a snapshot. And for management is of course important. Real-time control telemetry.
Can you please speed up a little bit, because
I'm finishing.
Thank you.
Everything like real-time control telemetry, HMI, Kaya spoke about BI, AI, predictive maintenance, machine learning can be done in the cloud. Very, very unlikely be done. And in perspective, that would make really cloud computing for SCADA something that we cannot go back from it, and it will be more involved in other utilities. One last sentence about what Danny said, and I think also Thomas says, about making the alternative to have manual operation. This is of course correct in 100%, and that should be done. However, you should remember, I have client, for example, in the USA that had a problem with one of the sites. I told him, you have to go there and see what is going on. And he said, it's 8,000 miles from me. So remember that when you say no internet connection, 8,000 miles. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Very interesting presentation. Do we have more luck with Sarah now?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
It seems better. Okay.
Please start with your presentation because we are running out of time and we will have only possibility to ask 2 questions. So please start.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you for the opportunity to present in this conference. So water control systems are in the process of migration to smart water grids, where there is tighter integration between water and information, and we just had a wonderful example of integration in our lecture. However, this integration between information and water significantly increases the attack surface of water systems and makes them easier to attack. And indeed, water facilities are becoming popular in the attacker's bank of target. Moreover, so since successful attack created perception of loss of control from the state side. And as been mentioned in the previous lectures by my colleagues, we observed a significant innovation in recent attacks that are targeting water infrastructure. But let me go back to basics for a minute. At the core of the water control system lies the PLC. It is a fabulous device. A bit stream enters on one end and things are starting to move and change state, kinetic states on the other end. And although great advancements were made in the area of PLC security, they are sadly enough vulnerable, as we demonstrated in our Siemens, in our attack on Siemens S7 15,000 PLC that we presented in Blackhead last year. Practically, many times when the attacker can communicate with the PLC, as Shaul and Danny explained in the lectures, it is game over. Okay, so what we as water system and cyber expert, what can we do? So there are basically 2 alternatives. The first one, the water system experts can build a good and efficient system which handles water in a perfectly good manner, and then ask us, the cyber experts, to protect it. And mainly, we will throw more and more layers of defense. This is for all of us the easiest way, since it makes you can remain the water system experts and us, we remain the cyber expert. But is it the more efficient and secure way? I argue that it is not. The other alternative, I admit, is a bit more complex, and it is to build securely. It requires us, the cybersecurity experts, to become familiar and knowledgeable in water security, and it requires the water experts to understand cybersecurity better. But the result is what we call a secured by design system. I argue the water experts in the audience to engage with cybersecurity experts in early stages of projects. This way, security will be an integral part of the system and not a band-aid or another piggy bell layer that is added to the system. And I follow Ra'anana Dean's saying that tighter integration is indeed a requirement for building secure water system. Now, for those of you who already have working system at place, do not despair. There's an effort involved in redesign and maybe even re-architect of water control system in order to make them cyber ready. However, we already have experience with system that long-term we definitely increase the system security, while surprisingly, we decrease the overall CapEx and OpEx of the system. Since many times the additional security layers that are added in order to protect the system that's already built in a certain way and is already in place are more expensive, both from spending perspective and from operational perspective than going to the straightforward security engineering of building a secure system. We now know that secured by design systems are more resilient to persistent attacks, cyber attacks, and we as cyber experts can help you build them in an efficient and definitely a secure manner.
Thank you, Sarah. I think that we have to end. It was 5 minutes to conclude. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sure that we can talk about that cybersecurity whole day and one more, and we will not exhaust all the thoughts that we have and we are challenged by. But now, to conclude, we have one question. How would you think that there is a need for establishment a platform for exchange information, or how to facilitate that exchange of information and best practices among the countries? Would it be that we find the way in technology, or another way to exchange the information, to get the information, and then to value this information in building more trustful and more secure systems? If we start with Kaya and then the same around, please. 1 minute each, if it is okay for you. Kaya?
To give me access. Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I think there's definitely an opportunity to work both within countries. The platforms that were mentioned earlier that have been established around the different legislative frameworks, both in the US and Europe and around the NIST directive, have definitely an opportunity in there to work together, not just the operators of the various water facilities, but also the technology companies as well as government regulators and policy experts, which I think would be also an important additional angle to consider. I think where there is a real need, however, is what was mentioned earlier, which was a lot of these times the impact of attacks on some of the systems go way beyond just one country. So ensuring that we are able to collaborate across different countries and share knowledge, in particularly between, I mentioned the US and Europe. Obviously, these are a couple of examples that are like super developed. So bringing in additional stakeholders from emerging economies in particular and helping them build capacity in this space, I think will be really important going forward. And sorry about the dog.
Thank you, Kaya. It's okay to hear that somebody is watching for us. Please, Tadej, can you express your thoughts here within this question? Tadej, do we have you?
Here? Yeah, I would just continue and maybe just, of course, confirm that collaboration and sharing good practices and connection of the cooperation among countries is much needed. I would, for example, put the reference to ongoing project on UN CFACT, particularly on building interoperable global blockchain infrastructure, where we can find out that such a collaboration have concrete results, and maybe, because Nina, you are leading that working group, some follow-up activities related to the topic we are discussing today would be needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Tadej. Shaul?
Yes, thank you very much. Now I also see myself. I would say that cooperation between or among private sector, a little bit of academic, and the regulation is required. And this is very important for the sharing of information. And I'm a great believer in sharing information, because when you give something, you get something. Always when you tell something, you hear something. So I'm a great believer in cooperation between all different levels of involvement. And I'm also, if speaking about Europe, for example, then sharing information with cloud computing systems among different utilities in different countries, sharing the same infrastructure, the same reservoirs and things like that. This is highly important, and I think that can bring a lot of good results to the water business.
Thank you very much. Sarah?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm a great believer in education and training, and in my role at the Technion. So I believe that we should train people and educate them on how to design secure system. I think that this is a goal both in water experts and in the cyber experts. We need to have more familiarity and more knowledge in order to create an interdisciplinary secure system. This is my thought.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for today. As I said, we can probably talk about this 2 days and it will never end. As a conclusion, maybe what is important to have an ecosystem supported by trusted-based infrastructure, cloud or blockchain. And we are, as today said, and thank you very much today, we are developing within UNC-FACT chain. This is cross-border interoperable infrastructure. So you are all invited to participate, to share your thoughts with us, and to build that ecosystem that will be able to ensure secure and traceable system in the water supply. Thank you very much for today. It was a pleasure for me, and see you next time at some other opportunity. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Nena, and thanks all the speakers on this panel. We are now slightly behind our schedule, and we still have one very interesting block on international organizations and their views and possibilities in front of us. So please, for all the people who intervene in the coming section, please try to be concise and try to really summarize the main messages as much as you can. And I would like to invite His Excellency Ambassador Behar from Israel. He is the special envoy for climate change and sustainability, and he will chair our last panel. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me well? So you have greetings from Jerusalem. It's almost the middle of winter, and we have a sunny day. So we are entering this very interesting panel about the role of international organizations in the field of cyber security and water. This is extremely important. And we have with us 6 prominent experts in this field. And I would like to give them the floor. They will have each about 5 minutes to speak. And I would like to encourage the listeners or the viewers also to send us questions. After their presentations, we will have some time allocated for questions and answers. So to start, I would like to invite Mr. Enrico Formica, who is from the UN Department of Political and Peace Building Affairs. Enrico, the floor is yours. Go ahead. Enrico, we cannot hear you.
Excuse me, Mr. Enrico, we cannot hear you. Please make sure that you allowed your browser to use your microphone and camera. You can check that by clicking on the pet-like icon right next to the address bar. And there you would need to allow the browser to use your camera and microphone. And also, you can also check the setting by clicking on the cogwheel icon at the bottom of the platform, and then going to media settings and make sure that the correct device is selected. And after making any changes, please refresh your browser.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Thank you very much, Ambassador Behar, and thanks also to Slovenia, Israel, and the WMO for organizing this timely event. Very happy to be part of it. As I said, I'm a part of the Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, and my presentation will be maybe slightly different in nature from what we have discussed so far. I will focus on the changing character of conflict and our response as DPPA in responding to this changing. Now, we know that in conflict, water has often been a driver for conflict, but also an opportunity, as it was already mentioned, for greater regional cooperation and conflict prevention. Obviously, climate change is expanding significantly these risks and these opportunities. Now, when we talk about the changing character of conflict, we see multiple dimensions, but of course, there are a number of them related to technologies. Already in 2015, the UNGGE noted disturbing trends in the global ICT environment, including a dramatic increase in incidents involving the malicious use of ICTs by state and non-state actors. This was 2015. Things are not getting better, things are getting worse, and this trend is intensifying. And so more frequently, we witness cyber operations that deliberately target critical infrastructures and other conflict-related use of technologies, in particular with social media. Now, the malicious use of ICT can generate miscalculation and increase the risk of violent conflict. We are also operating in a normative framework that is clear in its broader contours, but yet still contested in its practical applications. Again, the General Assembly has established that international law, in particular the Charter of the United Nations, applies to conflict involving ICT, and the GG has put forward a number of very useful non-binding norms. But the concrete application of all this normative regulating framework is still somewhat contested. Now, let me say just a few words on how we prepare ourselves to operate in this changing conflict environment that I briefly described in my introduction. Now, the Secretary General in his Agenda for Disarmament, published in 2018, highlighted that his good offices could play a role in helping to mitigate, prevent, and manage conflict stemming from malicious cyber activity committed within or across national boundaries. So we believe that the essential principles of good offices and diplomacy and mediation remain relevant in modern conflicts, regardless of the technologies involved. Conflicts are still human in nature, and then they are played in different ways with different tools. At the same time, we also believe that the practice of good offices and mediation requires to be updated to incorporate consideration on these digital issues that we are discussing today. And so in the department, we are trying to improve our ability to deal with this issue by broadening our ability to analyze conflict, to integrate technology-related consideration, and monitor cybersecurity incidents that are occurring around the world, including in theaters where we are operating. We are trying to enhance our own digital literacy to operate in this context. And finally, of particular relevance to this meeting, I think we are developing new partnership and anticipatory relations to help us navigate this new territory that for us is uncharted. For example, I want to refer to the establishment of the Cyber Mediation Network, which explores the impact of technologies and mediation. So just to conclude my short remarks, I believe that water infrastructure can indeed become targets and driver of conflicts. But at the same time, cooperation can also offer a huge opportunity to build confidence and to prevent conflict. Our tools in conflict prevention and conflict resolution can help minimize risks while managing crises when they emerge and maximizing the opportunities. Thank you very much for this opportunity to meet with you and talk with all of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Enrico. This was really 5 minutes, and thank you very much also for the very wise conclusion of opportunities and risks. So this is something we should bear in mind. I would like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Kubu Machach, from the International Committee of the Red Cross. Kubo, the floor is yours. Okay, here you are. Please.
Thank you, Ambassador Behar. I hope you can hear me well.
We hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I would also like to thank the World Meteorological Organization and the permanent missions of Slovenia and Israel for organizing. It's a real pleasure to be here today. So as you know, the International Committee of the Red Cross works in many armed conflicts and other situations of violence around the world. And our water and habitat activities in dozens of countries ensure that people in conflict zones have access to water and sanitation, and also that they live in a healthy environment. But at the same time, what we see, and we see this firsthand, are the effects of disruption of essential services, including the provision of water, water supply, and so on during armed conflicts. And so in some cases, the humanitarian consequences of such disruption on the civilian population can be very, very serious, with hundreds of thousands and sometimes even millions of people at risk. So let me just start by giving you a few examples of violations of IHL, which is of course the international humanitarian law, the body of law that applies in armed conflict. And these examples that I would like to highlight are through kinetic, so non-cyber operations against the water infrastructure that we have observed. So an example would be when a party to an armed conflict cuts off the water supply by switching off, for example, a water pumping station under its control. And they might do that with the effect that there is a temporary displacement of population in the territory, which the party to the conflict then uses to move into that territory. Or another example which we have seen is that the party to the conflict decides to destroy elevated water tanks because it fears that these water tanks could be used as possible vantage points by the enemy. And so then the result is that the population, which is normally served by this water infrastructure, loses access to drinking water. Now, moving to the cyber context, which is of course the focus of this meeting, and we have heard this time and time again from various speakers today, many water supply and water treatment facilities now rely on industrial control systems and on remote capabilities to operate this infrastructure. And so, of course, this offers certain pluses, certain advantages, such as improved service delivery, and within our remit in conflict-affected areas, this also improves the safety of the staff, the fact that they can operate this infrastructure remotely. But this increased connectivity also creates new vulnerabilities. And so we have already observed cyber attacks against water infrastructure, including outside of situations of armed conflict. And so again, just to give some examples of vectors that can also then be used during armed conflicts, we have seen a cyber operation that has interfered with the control systems of a wastewater facility, which has then resulted into the release of sewage into residential areas. We have seen reports of hackers changing the chemical mix of a water utility control system, and that then leads to the risk that impure water could spread diseases among the civilian population. And there are other vectors that we at the ICRC are concerned about. So all of this makes it very important to understand the relevant legal protections. So, and I'm going to speak about those available under IHL, and I know that Andras will later speak about the peacetime aspects of international law. So let me just highlight 3 in the remaining time that I have. Number 1, IHL absolutely prohibits attacks against civilian objects. And so civilian water-related infrastructure, such as a water supply facility or a wastewater facility, is in IHL terms a civilian object. And in the ICRC's view, the prohibition against attacking civilian objects also extends to cyber operations that only disable the civilian infrastructure, so to those operations that don't necessarily physically damage it. Then secondly, some types of critical water infrastructure, such as drinking water installations, such as drinking water supplies, additionally qualify as so-called objects indispensable to the survival of the civilian population. And under IHL, these objects indispensable to the survival of the civilian population benefit from a more stringent protection. So they are protected against all cyber operations, including those that would render them useless. And then thirdly, even when parties to the conflict conduct their cyber operations against military objectives, which is something that IHL permits, they must always take all feasible precautions to avoid or at least minimize incidental civilian harm, which is sometimes also called collateral damage. And so, for example, a cyber operation that is designed to freeze the military computers of the enemy by ransomware would have to be aborted if there was a real risk that that ransomware could spread into civilian networks and thus interfere with the functioning of critical civilian infrastructure. So those are just three rules to highlight. I would say that overall, on the basis of this analysis, we see that protections that IHL affords to critical water infrastructure against malicious cyber operations are quite robust. But there is a principal legal obstacle that has also been referred to before, and that relates to the interpretation of the law. And specifically, we need to reach a global consensus that IHL in fact applies to cyber operations during armed conflicts. And so that's why at the ICRC, we welcome that more and more states are coming out and they are affirming the applicability of IHL in cyberspace. And they do that both through national statements and also in multilateral settings, like the UN mandated processes, the GG that has been mentioned already, and the open-ended working group. So I'm going to end there, and I look forward to discussing this more in detail. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kubo, and thank you very much for putting the emphasis on the vulnerability of the civilian population. I think this is very important. I would like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Hisham Khadraoui, Director of Operations at the Geneva Call. Hisham, the floor is yours. Are you with us? Okay, we see your presentation. Can't see you and cannot hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you well.
Excellent. So thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation for Slovenia and the Parliament of Israel and WMO for hosting this important event. Geneva Call, we wanted to as well provide some inputs regarding an important aspect of this situation, which is the role and involvement of non-state armed groups with the matter. So I will present a few slides, maximum of 5 minutes to keep the time, to present a little bit some of our thoughts and few recommendations. So should I say next slide, or how does it work? If maybe you can have the next slide, that would be great.
Yes, please, next slide.
Thank you so much. So first of all, as my colleague from the ICRC just said before, I mean, we at Geneva Call, we are specifically talking to the armed groups in conflict zones, trying to change their behavior and trying to make them improvement to better respect the populations. And of course, with the new technologies, armed groups have been very much aware of the possibilities of using new technologies to harm or to cause damages to essential infrastructures. And water-related ones are, of course, an essential and key element of the life of populations. As you can see, I mean, water as a weapon of warfare, it can be, of course, a target in armed conflict. If you destroy a dam, if you poison the water, if you harm or you don't do maintenance, then you have, of course, the consequences for the health and the life of populations. As well, it can become as well a weapon, where water, with all its strength, can flood an entire region, destroy crops, and you have lives and economy which is completely cancelled after a few minutes. As well, it can cut off supply, where you don't have access anymore to your homes or to your fields or even to markets because of the water which is everywhere. And as well, you have this third form of attacks, which are the kinetic or cyber attacks. And these, as my colleagues just said before, can be from state, but as well armed groups. And armed groups are more and more the operators of this type of methods. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. I don't know if it will work.
Yes, you are on.
Yes, perfect. Thank you very much. So really quick things around armed groups and cyber warfare. First of all, I mean, for the armed groups, their advantage is that they are much cheaper and easier to carry out than physical attacks. No, just before, sorry. They are much cheaper to carry out than any physical attack, and the consequences can be very immense. So there is a net advantage for armed groups to try to develop their capacities to do such harm. As well, we see armed groups nowadays using a lot internet in terms of communication amongst members, planning attacks, fundraising, public relations. So we see more and more, we say, the tech-savvy armed groups members, because of the young age and the new generation, being very much, let's say, using these new tools and the cyberspace to basically conduct operations. Nevertheless, I mean, we still at this stage need for armed groups to conduct cyber warfare. They will need to attack multiple targets at the same time for a very long period to really create, I would say, a harmful effect. So we are still, let's say, at the early stage where we see armed groups being really able to basically launch these massive cyber attacks. But I would say that it's not something for the future. It's happening. Next slide, please. Yes. Great. So we see that we have the threat that armed groups can pose against water-related infrastructures. The last example was in the Tabra Dam in Syria, where ISIS was controlling the dam for many months. And of course, I mean, the dam was basically an immense threat to the populations on the ground. Then you have the role of armed groups that actually control territories and populations in many areas of the world, in many conflicts today. Armed groups are actually in charge of vast area of populations, and within these territories, you have water-related infrastructures. They are basically on a daily basis managing it, using it. So we have as well to have this in the mind. A third point, which is for me very important, is the state support and transfer of technologies to armed groups. We cannot ignore the fact that in today's conflicts, armed groups are not alone, and several states involved directly or indirectly into conflicts are providing technologies, knowledge, trainings to particular armed groups for them to carry out cyber attacks or do harm with using the cyberspace. So it's something to bear in mind when we have state responsibility, that this responsibility as well continues if they use it as well when they transfer this technology and these capacities to non-state armed groups. However, within IHL, it's still a difficulty to attribute really from where... Yes?
I ask you to really speed up because we are already over time. Thank you.
I will have my last slide now, please, on the next slide. And this is my last slide. It's just the recommendations. So we recommend, of course, to engage relevant armed groups, and GenevaCall, of course, can be useful in that, and as well as others, on the consequences of cyber warfare against water-related structures. And we would like as well to recommend to pursue the dialogue in panels and workshops as this one to include the armed groups perspective on the subject of cybersecurity. Thank you very much for your time. Over.
Thank you very much, Hisham. This was really fascinating, and it caught my eye, the issue of cyber terrorism and water, something we really have to think about. So I would like to invite our next speaker, Mr. François Monger, Director of Geneva Water Hub. François, the floor is yours. Are you with us? François? Okay, here we are. The floor is yours, François.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, competition for limited fresh water resources is increasing due to various factors, including strong growth in water demand for food, for energy, industrial production, coupled with pollution and inefficient resources uses. In addition, climate change destabilizes the water cycle. In recent years, there have been growing concern about the likelihood of conflict, where water shortage coupled with poverty, insecurity could weaken social cohesion and fuel local and interstate conflict. The Geneva Water Hub is established as a global center of the University of Geneva to help shaping the global hydropolitic agenda. It is the secretariat of the Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace. Our objective is to build bridges to prevent and resolve water-related conflict and to promote the use of water as an instrument of peace. Digital transformation is a key instrument to build these bridges. We welcome and want to increase our ongoing collaboration with the Geneva's vibrant ecosystem on data and digital cooperation. We are also now working with regional water hubs like the Pôle Eau de Dakar and with the River Basin Organization like the OMVG for the Gambia Basin to explore how the digital transformation can help them to boost their power as connectors and catalysts for prosperity and peace, while, of course, managing risk and barriers. This includes the design of smart joint and regional investment plan in connection with digital instruments to facilitate basin-wide integration and reduce inequality in water security. Indeed, digitalization can help reduce fragmentation of the water domain and promote an approach which recognizes the interconnection of water across sectors between political entities and across the urban-rural divide. Of course, growing opportunities created by digital technology are paralleled by abuse and cyber risk. We would like to really quickly contextualize the issue of cyber security for water and water-related infrastructure. First, water data are essential to build water cooperation and peace. The three major political efforts and current reflections, the three global high-level panel on water, converge on the crucial importance of water data for a sustainable future. Second, the transparent exchange and sharing of water data are key to build trust and cooperation. It is mandated by the Global Water Convention and the human right to water and sanitation. In this sense, cybersecurity cannot be invoked to hide or limit access to data and information to countries or to sectors or users sharing the same basin or water reservoir. Because of the transboundary and intersectorial cooperation mandate, river basin agencies are a favorable environment for digital transformation. However, for an effective cybersecurity, a water organization needs to coordinate its effort in its entire information system. But these systems are typically fragmented, have limited interoperability, and lack of human resources and often financial resources. Many data systems have collapsed not because of cyber attack, but because of deficient management or insufficient maintenance and investment. Cybersecurity has to be included in the overall infrastructure security, highlighting that many infrastructures are vulnerable and in danger of attack that do not require cyber technology. In this sense, it should be highlighted that equal access to service by all, leaving no one behind, is fundamental for the protection of infrastructure. For instance, hydroenergy transmission line to major urban centers that cross regions and villages without serving them, are inherently fragile. In any case, cybersecurity need to be seriously addressed. As Geneva Water Hub, we have drawn up the Geneva list of principles on the protection of water infrastructure during armed conflict. It is the first document which systemizes the main rule for the protection of water infrastructure during armed conflict. This document is focused on physical attack, The Geneva Water Hub will now include a specific principle with regard to cyber attack, which is gaining more and more importance in the current context. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Francois. I think that the principles you are talking about are of interest for all of us, and we will be able to read them. And also thank you for putting the emphasis of the importance of putting cybersecurity into every infrastructure of water. I would like to invite our next speaker, Dr. Yovan Kurbalia, head of the Geneva Internet Platform and executive director of Deep Law Foundation. Yovan, the floor is yours. Okay, Jovan, we are waiting for you.
Gideon, you can have Jovan speaking next, but you have stepped over one other participant from UNI DIR, and maybe you can invite Mr. Katzelic either before or after Mr. Kurbalia. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for that. So I'd like to ask Mr. Andras Kastelik, Institute for Disarmament Research, please. Sorry for that.
Hi, everyone. I'm mildly offended, Ambassador, but thank you very much for this opportunity. Johan, I hope that's okay if you go after me. Thanks also to WMO in Slovenia and Israel for the invitation. I really appreciate that. I was asked to address the scope of the legal protection of critical infrastructure, and I think Kubo to a certain extent alluded to that already. I'll deviate from this a bit, and I'll talk more about the relevant norms of responsible state behavior as proposed by the UNGGE and subsequently adopted by the General Assembly resolution in 2015. I believe it was December 2015. Quickly about the difference between law and norms. I know it sounds sort of similar, but there's one key difference. So norms of responsible state behavior that I mentioned are not law, they are not obligations, and because of that, they don't hold any legal consequences in the event of non-compliance. They're voluntary in their nature. That is quite clearly stipulated in the resolution and the recommendations by the GGE, and just standards essentially of expected international behavior of states. But even though all of them, pretty much all of them, 2015 norms that I explained, can be applied to the context of critical infrastructure, in our specific context also water management systems, three are quite clearly aimed at the protection of these systems. So first and foremost, I think the responsibility of the protection of critical infrastructure rests on the states themselves. That's obviously the first, and that's also quite clearly recognized by the norms that I mentioned. I don't want to repeat the sentiments regarding the threat landscape and consequences of the cyber incident affecting water management. Excuse me, water management system. I think a lot of people much smarter than me and much more familiar with the day-to-day business of a specific critical infrastructure sector have spoken about that. But I want to explain just briefly some prerequisites essentially that the norm, the aforementioned norm, actually requires from the state. So, for example, one thing that states can do before they can even start protecting the critical infrastructure is to define what is actually national critical infrastructure. You'd be surprised how often this is neglected. After that, the states should select the qualifying sectors, so which sectors fall within this general definition of a national critical infrastructure. And water obviously should be one of them, that's without a question. And then after that, they should compile the list of assets. This list of assets needs to be regularly updated as new actors come on the market, and tested through conducting different cyber exercises and similar. I think it would be very useful also for the states to share the scope of the critical national infrastructure with the international community as a confidence building measure. And I think the final prerequisite that I would like to mention in the context of this first norm is that states should establish functional multi-stakeholder cooperation networks within their countries before something actually occurs. Second norm that I would like to expose here, and particularly aimed at the protection of critical infrastructure, or in this case, water infrastructure, suggests that states should refrain from conducting malicious ICT activities contrary to their obligations under international law, with the intention to damage the critical infrastructure. In this particular case, again, water infrastructure. It's similar to the previous one. This norm is not a groundbreaking proposition, but it does stand as an important emphasis, I think, of the rule of international law in the context of critical infrastructure. But what is perhaps more interesting is that the norm suggests also the states should refrain also from knowingly supporting malicious ICT activity aimed at the critical infrastructure. And when read in a general in conjunction with the other norms, it's quite clear that states should do their utmost to make sure that their infrastructure, ICT infrastructure on their territory isn't really used by any of the actors, so that includes non-state actors, to conduct operations against critical infrastructure. That notion is very much based on the international legal principle of due diligence, and quite clearly recognized by a couple of countries to be applicable to cyberspace in their specific reports. And a third norm that I would like to talk about is the one focused on the incident resolution and lays down the expectations in the event the cyber incident actually does impair the functioning of a water management system. In this case, the norm expects the international community to respond to calls to assistance or mitigation by the affected nations, so essentially facilitating the cooperation between them. I'll stop with this, but I would like to explain the difference or the distinguishment that the norm does between the assistance and mitigation. Mitigation is expected from the state's territory, which is considered to be the origin of cyber operation, targeting that specific water management system. While the assistance, on the other hand, is expected from any state that is willing or able to give a hand. And please note that also the assistance does not need to be in a technical way. So if we're talking about a water system, again, I can see different ways that neighboring states could help with water management or water supply to their affected neighbors. I think I'll stop here. I'm more than happy to explain any of the particularities of norms in details.
Thank you very much, Andras. This was very interesting, the issue of highlighting the importance of norms, international norms. I would like now to invite Dr. Jovan Kurbalija, Director of the Geneva Internet Platform and Executive Director of Diplo Foundation. Okay.
Thank you, Ambassador Behar. I just learned how to use Kudo, my new platform, online platform, that you have to request speaking slot. It's really great honor to be today here. Congratulations to Permanent Mission of Israel, Slovenia, and WMO for doing extremely useful job in connecting general issues and cybersecurity to specific field of water and water management. And this is the really pressing issue in the global cooperation based on the report of the high-level panel on digital cooperation of the UN Secretary General and his roadmap that he issued a few months ago, which is some sort of track for the future discussion on digital cooperation. There are a few messages that are coming from the roadmap and discussion on digital cooperation. The first one is that companies, countries, and citizens do not have currently the place where they can place their cybersecurity data and other complaints and concerns. In the famous Kissinger saying, what is the number where I should call the Europe? There is no number where you can easily address cybersecurity challenge. There are certs in some countries. In Israel, the situation is definitely better than in other countries. But this is the first concern. The second concern is that digital policy on the global level is done in silos. And this is the reason why this workshop is extremely important. Environmental people are in their silos, cybersecurity in their data, and I'm sure that you can recall many examples from national, regional, and global levels. The real problem with digital is that issues are per se cross silos. You can discuss as much as you want cybersecurity in the silos, let's say on water community, but if you do not have reflections on standardization, on the cybersecurity negotiation in the UN, on cybercrime instruments, that discussion will be to the large extent useless. Therefore, that's the key challenge and the huge challenge from the national to global level. What can be done? In the places like Geneva, where more than 50% of global digital policy is coordinated, these dots can be connected. They can be connected through this type of workshops, but also via inputs of the national delegation into discussion on, let's say, data governance or cybersecurity and other areas. Therefore, I would expect that this process, which is in a way softly launched today, could result in a few lines in one of the major documents in these different policy fields, in cybersecurity, in data governance. I'm just mentioning few of them, but the list is quite extensive. Therefore, in brief, from the zoom out perspective, from digital policy and digital governance, water governance could be a good case study of cross-cutting cooperation and the cross-silos policy making. And I would like to encourage definitely Israel, Slovenia. I know that it is a topic of high interest in Switzerland and quite a few other countries, to develop some sort of formal or informal group of countries, of friends of the countries that can keep this issue high on policy agenda, but not only in the water governance circles or sustainable development or environment, but also in others. In data governance, cybersecurity, I mentioned just a few. Therefore, connecting the dots and ultimately finding the place where countries can voice their concerns and their problems on the question of cybersecurity and water are the two key priorities. Geneva is an ideal place to connect these dots, and we are looking forward for more follow-ups and more activities. Thank you for inviting me. I had a lovely presentation, but I didn't dare to experiment with the share screen. Therefore, I will send you in the follow-up. There are very nice images. Thank you, Ambassador. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Jovan. This was really very, very interesting, and we really hope to see your presentation. So we have heard all our 6 experts of the panel. Since we are already after our due time, I want to ask the organizers of this conference if we have a time for a question, or should we conclude now?
If there's one question, I think you can take it.
Okay. So maybe I will pose a general question for everyone, and if you could answer really quickly, 30, 45 seconds each by the order that you have spoken. So the question would be, what could be a practical follow-up of the event? What can we do further on to build up on this very successful conference? So we'll start by Enrico. Enrico, are you there?
No, yes, I'm trying to connect. Thank you very much. Well, I think that I will follow up on what Jovan has said. I think that cross-field cooperation is very useful. And again, in our sector, we tend always to focus on the risks, which is our natural inclination. But also sometimes we get distracted from the opportunities. And so really making an effort to see where the opportunities are, not forgetting the networks, but really try to find good areas for practical opportunities. Also because I think that this question of water is a very conducive theme in which people can display a more cooperative attitude than maybe other fields. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Enrico. Mr. Kubo. Kubo, are you there? Okay. Kubo. Here you are.
I'm here. I was waiting to get my request accepted. So very briefly, we at the ICRC we welcome these initiatives for cross-cutting and transversal conversations. That's also why we are very happy to support this event. I would mention that we convene events in which we talk to experts. We have done one about the potential human cost of cyber operations, and another one about avoiding civilian harm during military cyber operations. And so we will be happy in the future when we conduct expert meetings of this kind to also build on the new network, the enhanced network that we are creating today. And then I would also say that at the ICRC we are happy to lend our expertise to other initiatives that will sort of come to fruition on the basis of our conversation today. So I will end there, but on a very positive note, I think we are building something very useful here, and we are happy to contribute to it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kobo. I would like to invite Hisham Khadraoui. Hisham, floor is yours. Okay, let's see if Hisham is there.
Once you enter the room, you don't leave.
Is Hisham with us? If not, maybe we. Okay. If not, maybe we can turn to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Andras.
I got my Andy. So much easier. Otherwise, Andras. Hisham, you want to go first? I see you're connected now as well.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry everyone. I asked a request to speak and it took some time, so apologize. No, I mean, just really briefly. First of all, I think these type of events are extremely important because it brings generalists, technicians, states, private business, and this is how basically we can move on. If you only amongst let's say the same people, we will not go. This particular topic is a transversal topic. It goes into the peace and conflict time. So I'm really looking forward to the same type of event. And my second point will be to continue the reflection around state responsibility and if the current legal framework is adapted to the evolutions that will happen in conflicts today. Thank you very much again for the opportunity. Over.
Thank you, Hisham. Andras, you are already online.
Thank you. Yes, I'll be very brief. I think Johan had a good point. I think some sort of coalition or partnership or friendship would be definitely good in this phase to keep the topic, I suppose, hot and on the agenda of all the policymakers. But from a very egocentric perspective, I think, in line with my presentation, I think the countries in our research here, the United Nations Institute for Disarmament Research, states should really implement the norms and share good practices pertaining to these implementations. And I think by doing so, they will encourage also other states to implement. And hopefully this is going to be a bit of a snowball effect. And as you can see, all the norms are essentially mutually reassuring. That's number one. Number two, they facilitate international cooperation. And by implementing one state, by implementing norm, will essentially help itself if other states implement these norms as well. So hopefully that spreads around the world. That's all.
Thank you very much, Andras. Francois? Francois, are you with us? Okay, here is Francois.
Yes, I am with you now. Thank you. So, yes, in terms of follow-up, as I said, we will want to include in this Geneva list for the protection of water infrastructure during armed conflict, this question of water cyber security, sorry. And, this kind of insertion is not just to write an article. This means we will work with different partners as we have elaborated this list to see what exactly this could be focused in such document. And also the list is just one part. After the list, you have the monitoring. And after the monitoring, we could say the compliance is the different step and subject that we have now to tackle with this Geneva list. And sure, in the development, and particularly the development concerning this cybersecurity, will take advantage of the existing community or the community that Johan mentioned.
Okay. Thank you very much, Francois. Jovan, you are now. You've waited, and the floor is yours.
Sure. Maybe 5.5 points, but in one-liner, in tweets. Take care of standards development. Standards are developing fast in cybersecurity. Make sure that water-relevant issues are included in these standards, from 5G to Internet of Things. Second, reduce loss in translation between two communities, starting from clarifying language, clarifying use of acronyms, and third, organize training for water people to understand cyberspace and cyber people to understand water discussion. Fourth, increase the cross-fertilization of subject matter. For example, state responsibility is very contested issue in digital field because states do not want to accept responsibility. Digital field can learn a lot from the transboundary water law and the responsibilities developed in the water field. And last point, create observatory which will follow the developments, document actors, what Francois mentioned, the developments of monitoring implementation mechanisms. And then the half, create a peer-to-peer network, and when COVID ends, evolve into the beer-to-beer network or whatever we drink. Therefore, that's important. The human connections across the policy silos, in my experience, are much more important than policy documents. And I think this event, although online, is a great step in that direction. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Jovan. And I would like to thank all the participants of this panel. I wish we had more time to hear you, because really what you have with you is such an enormous knowledge, so very important. And also I would like to thank the listeners and the viewers of this panel. I think that one conclusion comes up clearly from this panel, that there is a huge need for international cooperation, international coordination, and development of a mechanism and of exchange of views, ideas, and best practices, really to secure our water from cyber security. So, toda rabba and shalom from Jerusalem again.
Thanks a lot, Gideon, for excellent moderation of our last panel. I want to mention two people explicitly, because they have done most of the work in preparing this event, and this is Tamara from the Israeli mission. Tamara, if you want, you can just click on your microphone and people can see you. And also Irina from the Slovenian mission. Just click on the red button so people should be able to see you also. So here's Irina. Tamara is here. They are all with us today. They have done a tremendous work in bringing this together, and I would like to explicitly thank the two of them. Also, I want to announce that we will want to share all the presentations that have been shown today on a website, where we will also try to pull together a report and a synthesis of what we have heard and discussed today. Let me take 3 minutes to summarize, maybe from the very quick and maybe also a bit almost a quick and dirty analysis of what I have perceived of today's discussion. So one of the main problems that we have is that we have legislation, we have legal frameworks, but to really bring it down to procedure and to local capacity is a challenge, especially in the water sector. So there is a disconnect yet between the legal debate, the political debate, and the local impact that this has on the security of water systems. Information, communication, and really the sensitizing those communities is a really important building block that we need to address if we want to get to a more robust, more resilient system. We need to think about the system robustness. Training is key. We need to train at national level, but we should also train at maybe regional level. We have heard that in-country coordination is also important, and that goes from the government level to the local capacity, and it also goes across the different sectors. We should probably have more tools readily available how we can improve our systems. We should have use cases easily accessible to the operators so that they actually know what are the different objects or parts of this system that they should take into account. And I think there was a strong advocacy for shared regional experiences, systems, infrastructures to catalyze the benefit to catalyze cooperation. We need to develop international guidelines or standards, or we need to really give access to those best practices that we can develop for the operational regard. And we have heard from François Munger that they will include, that the Geneva Water Hub will include a cybersecurity aspect in their guidelines. So I think for water and conflicts, I think this is a great news. We have heard from our from Leonardo De Vizio from the European Union that they are planning information sharing centers, and we should now, as a team, follow up on this and probably pull together and synthesize those possibilities, how we can now develop the step forward in helping all the different players to cooperate on this. I have heard the word observatory today. I have heard the word platform today. I don't think that from today's discussion we have a very clear solution on what could facilitate national, regional, and global cooperation, but I am very positive and optimistic that the group of people who was online today and who have prepared this session can work further together to really outline what is needed. And if any of you who is still connected to this meeting is interested to join this discussion, please send an email either to the email address that you have seen earlier from the Israeli mission, or to Irina, that has communicated to you about this event, or you can also find me in the WMO. My name is Johannes Kuhlmann. That's with a C-U-L-L-M-A-N-N, and I am, of course, willing to connect you to the follow-up process. So with that, I'd like to close our session today. I'd like to thank everybody who was involved, and I wish you, and of course I have to say that in these times, health, and I also wish you cybersecurity. So please follow up with us, and please also have a nice rest of the day wherever you are. Bye-bye.